This is the Founders Catalyst. Hello. Lee just screamed into the mic right before we pressed record. So energy is so wonderfully high immediately right off the bat, folks. Well, firstly, Lee, how are we, brother?
My mud water's kicking in now.
That's good.
So
That's good.
For the dear sweet listeners, we appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing this journey with us. We are recording 2 episodes today, so we've just done 1 episode. Me and Steve do not live in the same time zone, so Steve makes me get up nice and early to be able to record these. And my mud water is kicking in. My mushroom adaptogens and low-dose caffeine has hit the spot, and I'm now roaring and ready to go.
Yeah, dyslexia is still kicking in a little bit, though. I heard
that's never going anywhere.
That's never going anywhere. But this is probably so. We're episode 11. You probably mentioned mud water at least 1 in every single 2 episodes. So whenever they're ready, they've got a space here to sponsor.
There they are. For you at YouTube, you can see the little display I have behind me.
This is how we do it. This is how you make it big. You talk about the sponsor first, and then they're just like, all right, these guys won't shut up about us. We might as well throw them a few freebies. Anyway, coming out of dreamland, back into reality for a moment. Let's talk how we can utilize coaching as a leadership tool. And you and I have both actually recently done some workshopping, some masterclasses around this. And it was, at least from my experience, and I'll go with my experience first. My experience that I did this with about 75 HR professionals here in Louisiana. And the idea around the masterclass was about 2 hours, and I talked about how do we implement coaching within a growth-minded organization. So right there, I kind of made it clear. If you're not growth-minded, chances are coaching may not necessarily hit the way you would like it to within your organization. So just to preface it with that, this isn't necessarily for those that are more fixed and set in their ways and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think we have anybody that listens to the show.
That's not our audience, Steve.
That's not our audience. It's okay. They can have their own podcast. But the fact is that at the heart of what I believe, coaching is such a requirement now for leaders, is that it insists upon making time for people. It's not a passive skill. It's something you have to intentionally make time for, to sit down. Active listening is at the heart of great coaching. And so if you think you're coaching people within your organization because you're screaming at people the way a past sports coach did 20, 30, 40 years ago when you were a kid, you're misunderstanding what coaching can and should be within your organization. So I just want to start there. I
jump in here with
Please.
What I think modern leadership is and why we look at it as a coaching model. So leadership used to be the authoritarian model. So the leader had all of the answers, and it was the leader's job to have all of the answers. And then as we've progressed and understand humans and how they work better and what motivates us, we understand a more evolved model of leadership. Now, add on top of that we now have access to more information than human beings have ever had at our fingertips, in the internet, with podcasts, with books. You don't need the leader to be the expert on everything. In fact, you don't want the leader to be the expert on everything. You want a collection of experts coming together for a greater aim and a greater achievement than one strong leader can do by themselves. You want a collection of leaders coming together. So that means we can't do this authoritarian model anymore. Now we have to be empowering, and we have to understand how to motivate others. And please listen to our last episode to talk about culture and motivation. And we have to look at leadership as, how do we help the people around us grow and step into their leadership? Well, so how do we do that? We do that through coaching. And as Steve said, what's coaching? Coaching is taking people where they are now, establishing where they would like to get to, or in an organizational sense, where we need them to get to, and then working on the gap, what needs to change, what needs to be evolved, what needs to be learned, what needs to stop happening for you to get from where you are now to where you want to get to. That's the coaching model. And coaching as a leader is, as Steve very importantly said, there needs to be a lot of listening. The listening of wherever you are now. How can I as a leader help you get to where you want to get to as an individual in your own personal growth, and for what this company needs from you. And the SAS, which is the British Special Forces, the way that they look at leadership is that they have a cross-functional leadership where everybody involved in any mission can be a leader at any one time. There is no fixed leader that is, right, I am always in charge, and everything is being negotiated, discussed, everybody's ideas come into the pot. And that's what I see in high-performing companies. Everybody has a voice. Everybody from the janitor upwards can say, hey, I think there's a better way to do this. Yeah. And that requires listening. That requires leaders who are prepared to listen.
Okay, so we've painted a picture here of what leadership is in the modern day business and how coaching can play a part. Why do we want coaching to be at the center of our businesses? And I'm asking a question that in some ways is loaded because I have an opinion on it, but when I say why because, but it's so overused right now, the word coaching, and I think we both agree because we've talked about it. It's so wrongly used too. I mean, there's so many people that are addressing themselves as coaching in this day and age. It's kind of frightening, and it makes you immediately just concerned as a coach who, from an integrity standpoint, has built a way of coaching based on true coaching principles, foundations of excellence, etc. It makes you truly worried when you just think, okay, how far is this thing going to go until we have to pull it back in? Now, you and I are literally speaking to that right now. We need to start reeling this thing back in yesterday. But the fact of the matter is, it's probably not going to happen for a while. So why do we need to address this now? Why do we need to start better defining what coaching is and making it part of our organizations when it comes to the way we show up as leaders?
Well, let's define coaching. I think that's a good place to start. What do we mean by coaching? And I think there's a little bit of a difference between us and what we do as coaches and the coaching leadership principle in your business.
Yep.
So what is coaching from my viewpoint as a leadership coach? Well, I'll tell you what it's not. My job is not to tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to figure out what it is that you want to do and how to support you in getting there. My job is to listen to you, to listen and to see what patterns are coming up that you may have missed about yourself, to help you peel back the defensive layers till we can really get to, okay, what's going on for you? What really motivates you? What do you really want in life? Where do you really want to get to? Most of the people I work with think they have a clear vision for their life, but don't. They haven't actually really sat down and done the work to go, what's my why? Why do I do this? Why do I get out of bed in the morning? Because they're so focused on today, they're not thinking about 10, 15, 20, 30 years' time. One of my favorite questions to ask to people is, what do you want to be known for? Lying on your deathbed, what do you want to be known for? And it's very rarely, I want to be known as a billionaire. It's, I want to be known as somebody who cared. I want to be known as somebody who made an impact. I want to be known as somebody who changed the world to the better. So that's us as leadership coaches. We're also there to reflect the things that other people cannot see or are afraid to tell you. And, I agree with Steve. Coaching as an industry is a little bit of a reckoning point. There's lots of people that claim to be coaches but actually are not coaches. They're gurus, or they're telling you what to do because they think that's what coaching is. And coaching is us unlocking your own brilliance and supporting you on your journey. I don't have an outcome for you. My only wish is that you discover what you need and I help you get there. Now, coaching as a leader in an organization is slightly different, because there are times we have to tell people what to do. That is the nature of it. You need to tell your team what to do sometimes. However, the difference between that and the authoritarian model is your job as the coach and leader is to help people understand why they need to do the things that they need to do. Your job is to help them understand why they are motivated to do the things, why they want to be in there, how they want to progress. Something I often see in teams is leaders worried that if their team member grows, they might leave.
Right.
And to me, you should never think about that. Actually, you should be proud if you grow a team member and they leave to go on to do something bigger and better than the current role that they have in your company. Because we should all be looking to grow human beings. Like, I think that is the greatest gift we can give to each other, is help each other grow to be more successful. And in my view, the company gets a lot more from that individual while they're in the company if they are striving to be a better version of themselves. They're more motivated, they work harder, their work is better. So stop worrying about, I might lose this person if I develop them. Develop the hell out of them and know that they will go and tell everybody what an incredible boss you were to work for and what an incredible company this is. And you will have people knocking down the door to come and work at your company because everybody knows the culture is so good. And I see this with some of the companies that I work with. They never struggle to replace people because they're known for incredible culture.
Yep.
I think the other thing with coaching as a leader is it's taking responsibility yourself that you don't have to know everything. Same as us. Yep. I don't need to know anything about your business to be a world-class coach for you. I'm a world-class coach on human beings. Right. You're the expert on your business. I help you get out of your own way so that you can maximize your knowledge and do the most with your knowledge. Yep. And we might brainstorm and talk about stuff in your business, but I don't need to be an expert on your business. And I'm not an expert on most of the businesses that I work with. I learn because I'm curious and people like to tell me and educate me, but I don't need to be. And I think that's the same in some ways in the coaching as a leader role model. You want to find people that know more about their area of expertise than you do. So I think it was the founder of Instagram I heard on a podcast saying his job was to employ people that knew more than him, so that each area of his business had somebody who was better in that area of the business than he could ever be. And that doesn't mean that he couldn't lead them, because he's helping them be even better versions of themselves while they still know that area of the business better than him. And that's another part of that. The modern leader is, we don't need to know everything. That old authoritarian model, I'm the coach, I know everything from the sports world, I'm the leader, I know everything, I know more than you in the leadership world, that's gone. We now have people who are so specialized and so advanced and so knowledgeable in their area of expertise in a company that there's no way the leader of the company could or should know as much about that area as them. Your job is to help them be the best version of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's resounding through everything you just said there, is like, can you become an expert in the people that work for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, you talk about expertise, like if you're hiring people that are going to truly have a set of expertise that far outweigh yours in a specific area because you're hiring them for that specific need, your next step then is like, okay, how can I become an expert in this individual? You know, because I love what you say, because it was, you know, you step into this coaching space as you and I did about 3 years ago, and here I am telling people I used to be an Olympic level swim coach, now I'm an executive coach, and the first thing people would say to me is, for swimmers? I just said, no, swimmers don't need this. They don't need that. They need a swim coach. And you know, but so for me, it was really fun. It was really funny in that regard. But then on the other side, you know, the imposter syndrome kicks in. Just to speak honestly here, like the imposter syndrome kicks in. And the first time I sit down, rewind 3 years, I remember someone's talking about their business. This, da, 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 da. I'm just like, I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that. But as I'm listening, I asked them a question that forced them just to stop talking. I asked them one question, and suddenly it completely stopped them in their tracks. And they realized quickly, oh, I'm not hiring this person to advise me on my business at all. I'm not. Like, I'm actually hiring them to ask questions that nobody in my business is able or willing to ask me. You know, and I think when you as a leader can sit in a meeting, whether it be a one-on-one or a group, whatever it may be, and ask questions that force people to stop what they're thinking about in regards to just the job they're doing, and to actually focus a little bit more retrospectively and say, okay, how am I showing up? How can I show up as a better, more improved version of myself? Are you asking those kind of questions that's forcing people to really get to the heart of who they are on a deeper level and how they're showing up to do the work that they're doing? Because that's the gap that we're talking about and that you referenced here. It's like if you can help someone somehow better connect with who they are at their core and how they show up and do the work that they do, you already know that they're an expert in a specific area. So now they're going to be just taking more energy into that work.
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing you can do to add value to your business. And we obviously do that on a much higher level, much deeper level, because you and I specifically, we are adamant about this in the way that we market ourselves and do what we do. We're working with the people that don't necessarily have someone to do that for them. We're working with those at the very top of the business.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think it's not an easy thing to do. Going back to my first thing that I mentioned, like, again, there is, when I said this to this room that I was working with a couple months ago, and I said that there's too many passive coaching attempts. There's too many people think we're taking the time to stop and get curious and ask questions and all this kind of thing while we're walking down the hallway in our buildings into our next meeting. We're thinking we're going to somehow solve something in a 2-minute communication with someone. And again, it goes back to a couple of the themes of the last 2 episodes, is the intentionality behind making the time. Are you being intentional around the time that you make, not just doing it when it's convenient to you, because that's not an investment in someone when it's convenient to you. You can find a way to do it on their terms.
It's not enough time, is it? Right? It takes time to do this properly. There's 2 things that come up for me that, from what you're saying, and there's something that I'm remiss from not sharing as the coaching model, and that is my version of leadership. What I think is excellent leadership is when we as leaders meet our team where they are, meet our individuals where they are. Again, so going away from that authoritarian.
What do you mean by that,
leadership.
Lee? What do you mean by that?
Well, so the authoritarian leadership of, this is my leadership style, and you, employee, individual, need to adapt to me, my leadership style, instead of my leadership style, my coaching style. What I want with the leaders that I work with is they adapt themselves, because they become experts on human beings, to the person that they're leading. And they know the person that needs a kick up the butt. They know the person that needs an arm around the shoulder. They change the tone of their voice depending on who they speak to. They might change the cadence, right? You're working with somebody a bit more excitable. Well, you both get a bit excitable. When you're working with somebody who's a little bit more kind of introverted and calm, you slow down. You lower the tone of your voice so that you match them. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to meet that person where they are and where their coaching needs are, to be the best version for them as leaders, instead of, this is the way I lead, lump it, or like it or lump it, you can go if you don't like it. That means that we have a narrow capability of people that we can work with, and we have a business that's full of people like us. And that's a dangerous business model, because then we never get our ideas challenged, because we just have a bunch of people like us around. So we want diversity in our businesses. It's important for our businesses to grow. It's important for our businesses to understand a diverse amount of customers by having diversity in our businesses. And that means as leaders, we need to be adaptable, and we need to know, how do I meet this person where they are? How do I figure out how best to support them by me changing as a leader, by me adapting myself as a leader? When I see that happen with the leaders I work with, I know that I'm doing a fabulous job, because that is where the magic is. When a leader can adapt themselves to be the coach, to be the leader that their team member needs. That's where I think the excellence is.
Yeah. Being the coach and being the leader that somebody else needs. I think it's funny. Immediately my mind goes back to just all the years of coaching swimmers, and the one thing you don't hang around for is a thank you. you don't like, you just, if I waited all those years for every one of my athletes to say thank you, I wouldn't be on this podcast right now. I'd still be stood on a poolside somewhere. And I think, but you don't do it for that. You don't do it for that. You know, you do it for the moment that they're going to experience. And, you know, I'm joking a little bit because I had a lot of very grateful athletes over the years, and it was the more successful they were, the more grateful they seemed to be. And
Shocker, that.
Shocker, innit? And they also did more work. It's weird. It's super weird. But so much of what we're speaking to here is that there's a world where you do this right and you never get the thank you, right? You know, you may never get a thank you, but you get to sit back and watch the fruits of that investment happen before your eyes. To your point as well, someone walks away. Someone leaves the company. They move forward so much. They improve so much because of the gifts that you continue to give them. Their way of saying thank you is taking a job somewhere else.
And that is,
what? Right.
I want to pause you because as a leader, when somebody leaves for a better role than they currently have, that is a huge thank you to you, even if you don't understand it. You know, and I've worked with leaders that get really upset, and I'm like, no, you need to reframe this. This is the biggest compliment you can ever get as a leader when somebody leaves you to go and work for, you know, to go and do something bigger because you help them get there. Mm-hmm. Like that is the biggest compliment you can ever have. Yeah. As a cycling coach, I used to take on other coaches to mentor them. I helped 5 other cycling coaches start their business. Now, I could look at that and go, you left me, you know, you abandoned me, and also now you're in competition with me. And I never looked at it like that. I always looked at it like that's the greatest gift I can give to somebody. I'm setting them up to be in charge of their own livelihood. And, you know, 4 out of those 5 people I'm still very close to, and we're still good friends because they understand the gift that I gave them. And I want to pivot slightly now and do a little bit of an advert for something that I've got coming up. So next year I'm going to be running the Founders Intensive, so the Founders Catalyst Intensive. Let me get the name correct. And the reason I'm going to do that, or one of the reasons I'm going to do that, is for something that you just mentioned, which is when we're the leader, we don't get the thanks. Because it's our job, right? Our job is to be the person that is giving, that does it, that steps up and shows the right way to do it. And we might not get the thanks and we might not get the appreciation, and we carry a heavy load because it's the responsibility is on us, and usually the financial risk is on us. So I will have a cohort of carefully selected people, and I'll be sharing soon exactly what it is that you need to be to fit the right mold for this group of people. So we're all have a similar kind of size of company. We're going through a similar kind of moment in our learning so that you really resonate with each other and you have a very strong cohort. The reason I want to do this isn't because I want to make money. I mean, I do. I am a businessman. I don't do this for free. But the reason I want to do this is because I wish it existed for me. When I was struggling in my businesses, when I was struggling as a cycling coach, I wished that there was cohorts of people that I could go and spend time with who understood my journey. And that's why I do the work that I do, because I know how lonely it is to be a founder and to be a leader and to be the one suffering that pressure, and no one else to understand what it's like to be, frankly, as crazy as you are, and to take the risk that you take, and to take the responsibility, like the enormous responsibility. You know, me and you take responsibilities for our family, making sure that we are earning the money for our families to be safe and secure, and doing it in such a way that we are trusting that people will resonate with what we say and what we offer them to allow us to be able to be financially secure, to allow them to succeed. So I really resonate with that. I've started 6 companies. I know that you've started companies, and I want to create platforms, groups and communities where people like us can come together, which is why we have our LinkedIn group, the Founders Catalyst. That's completely free. Come join us. We do a monthly free Zoom call, and I'll be starting a select 9-person intensive. And I know that you're about to create some groups as well, because we so strongly believe that you have to surround yourself with community. Yep. And to find those people that are true founders, that are truly doing it and understand your journey, they're 1 in a million. So you don't just happen across those people walking down the street.
Right.
You have to intentionally do it. It's how me and you found each other.
That's right.
Right? You know, we got connected because we both share aims and we share dreams and we share standards that not everybody else has. And most people can't even understand the standards that we have for ourselves and for society.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important when we're talking about this coaching as leaders that you as a leader get coached, that you get support, that you find the right groups. It doesn't have to be our groups, but you find the right groups, the right mentors to support you, so you do get feedback and so you do get appreciated and support.
Yep. To kind of just wrap up the thankless part. I always call it. I've recently, over my entire lifetime, maybe the last couple of years, I've referenced it as the silent thank you. You know, like what does the silent thank you look like? And the silent thank you is all I mean by that. It's an action, it's a happening that occurs that isn't a thank you. You're not going to hear it, but to your point, it's a moment that represents that this person is grateful for the work that you've done, even if they're not able to associate that you were the one that got them there. That gratitude is still there, and you know what? That thank you is coming. It may not come in the moment, but it will always come at some point. You know, I'm even joking about that stuff with the summit. The amount of thank yous I've gotten in the last 3 years since I left some coaching for some of the stuff I did for people is as great as I got while I was actually doing it. You know, enough time has passed since they remember hating me in certain ways for the screaming and all this kind of thing I was doing in that world.
Blake was so mean to me. He made me swim so hard.
And now they can actually see why and the gratitude around that. But that's really what we're talking about here is those actions, those moments. You just have to see them for what they are. And to your point, mate, it's a great point. Is how do we reframe that? How do we look at that and say that person leaving is a testament to investment that I put into that individual because I was willing to make time to support them, to listen to them on a level that maybe no one in their life has ever listened to them.
Yep.
And because of that, I was helping them to see things they were unable to see. Yeah. And right there, we have just a really simple 1, 2, 3. Let's just make it as simple as we can.
But to see opportunities.
Right. See opportunities. It's just a boom, 1, 2, 3. Did you make time to support them? Were you listening on a deeper level? And can you help them see opportunities that they themselves otherwise weren't able to see? If you can start to implement that and structure that, you're not going to necessarily do it great or well to begin with. That's fine. But I guarantee you, even if you stumble your way through it the first time around, the person you're doing it with is going to appreciate the fact that you tried. They're going to really appreciate the fact that you tried to support them, you tried to listen to them, and you're trying to give them opportunities that otherwise they themselves wouldn't have been able to identify and find for themselves.
Yeah. I want to leave our listeners with 2 things as I know we're about to wrap up here. So the first one is, as you say, that silent thanks. Stop and appreciate yourself, right? You don't, as a leader, it's really important that you stop, look around, appreciate what you're doing. Give yourself thanks, give yourself appreciation, give yourself praise, and go, yeah, I showed up really well, and this is where I showed up well. And I think it's really important that we do that, and we stop and we celebrate our wins, and we make sure that we celebrate our wins. And secondly, in my life, what I've experienced a lot of, which I think you just shared as well, is people may take 10 years to come back to you and go, you know what, that thing you did for me, that thing you said to me, that way you helped me, my God, it was so impactful. And I have taken on a practice of doing that myself, of looking for people that I need to appreciate.
I love that.
5 years after I finished working with him, I wrote a letter to my old therapist in the UK and told him about marrying my wife, and that would not have been possible without his support, his therapy and his coaching. I wouldn't have been enough of a man for her. I wouldn't have been able to have a relationship with a woman, especially as my wife. So I believe what we give out is what we get back. So if you are empowering people and allowing them to be the best versions of themselves, you will find wonderful people that want to come and work with you to be part of that. And everybody will talk about what a great person you are to work with, which will get you more world-class people. And that if we want praise and appreciation, acknowledgement, we better make sure that we're giving it out in bucket loads.
Yep. Love it. Love it. I don't even want to add any more to that. Again, this is what people needed to hear. It's 30 minutes on just, hey, let's take this notion that's out there in the world right now that is becoming more and more diluted and harder to understand, and simplify it to such an extent where you can look at it as it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. You know, it's so simple to implement. How can you start to do it more consistently? Practice it. It is a skill. Neither of us were born this way. It's a skill, and it takes time, but it takes that willingness to implement it in the first place. So, folks, you are getting a wave of encouragement from myself and Lee today to start implementing this stuff within your world. And I think, you know, you've highlighted a few ways that the Founders Catalyst is able to do this, but how about this podcast? You know, what we're doing right now, this needs to become content that folks within your organizations are listening to. And imagine what sort of expectation you would be putting on yourself as a leader if you shared this with people that you lead. You said, listen, I want to start working on this. I want to start coaching better. And I want you to listen to this 30 minutes of these two British blokes having a chat about coaching and how we can do it better as leaders. And I'm going to try to start implementing this, but I just want you to listen to it, and then maybe you can give me a little bit of slack on the front end. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try to start doing this, but you can start holding me accountable to doing this better. I think that is a coaching challenge on your way out here that as I see my partner nodding his head very agreeably on the other side of the screen. I think you're in agreement with that, Lee.
I love giving leaders challenges like that. Look, ask more of yourself and ask your team to ask more of you, and step into it. Believe you can be the leader that your team deserves.
Yeah, love it. All right, folks. Well, it's been a pleasure as always. Subscribe, share the show, let us know what you think. And that's all I have, Lee. What about you?
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Go and step into being the best version of you.
Love it.